Greetings and welcome to today's Gaiscioch family tutorial on the Gaiscioch Pioneers. This is a program that we started up a few years ago to allow our core personnel to be able to go into game development studios to be able to help them test or give opinions on different concepts. Today's tutorial will walk you through the Gaiscioch Pioneer system and what we do, what to expect, and what's expected of you. If you're interested in joining this program, stay tuned. At the end of the show, I'll give you information on how to do that. I am Benjamin Foley, the founder and activities director of the Gaiscioch social gaming community, and it's my pleasure to introduce you to the Gaiscioch Pioneers. What is the Gaiscioch Pioneer program? The Gaiscioch Pioneers are a team of gamers who provide on-demand testing services to game development studios. We assist in the development process for a large variety of games, ranging from MMOs to single-player console titles. This team is built to allow game developers to use our expertise as game players as needed for focus groups, alpha testing, closed beta testing, and open beta testing. All members of the Gaiscioch Pioneers will be expected to abide by the terms of their contract and present themselves in a professional way becoming of that of a Gaiscioch member. What are the requirements? You must be the rank of Lord Gare to be recommended. The reason we do this is because we want to make sure that you are living the lifestyle of Gaiscioch. You aren't going to be a troll. You aren't going to leak information. We want to have some kind of trust that you're not going to screw us over. And that comes from being around us being able to watch you, and us getting you to that Lord Gare rank. That is fairly easy to do. Most people obtain it within the first couple of weeks of being a member. So don't think that it's a long, hard push. You just have to put a little effort in, and that little effort will show us that you are worthy of us putting our reputation on the line for you. You must be willing to test games and provide feedback on a regular basis. When we say test games, this doesn't mean play before you buy. This means that if they ask you to run off a cliff 1,000 times and tell us how many times you fell through the floor, you're going to run off the cliff 1,000 times and fall through the floor. If they want you to test a new feature called Justin Bieber Rides My Little Pony, you're going to test Justin Bieber Rides My Little Pony. It's not always going to be fun, it's not always going to be exciting, but you as a Gaiscioch tester are going to be asked to do things that most other players will never see. And it's going to be up to you to be able to do those things repeatedly. You must be over the age of 18. A lot of these have legal binding contracts, and you can't sign one of those if you're under the age of 18. You must be a legal adult. You must provide your full name, email address, phone number, age, and country to be eligible to sign the NDA. That's so that we can give them your information so they can have it all ready for you. They send you a kit, you fill it out, you fax it back to them. Everything's nice and proper, legal, and we like to give them as much information as we can before they choose you to be one of the testers. You must have good standing as Gaiscioch member and Pioneer. If we find that a Pioneer is not living up to their commitment and they are trying before they buy, or they're leaking information, we will remove their status from the Pioneers, and they will never be able to test another game again under our name. We do provide the game development studios lists of people who are people who have been known to leak information, and we will make sure that they don't ever see a test that we're ever involved in. That is just because we do cherish our relationship with the game developers, and we have enough respect for them to abide by our contract and live up to the requirements that they gave us. You must maintain membership and participation in total secrecy. Nobody can know that you're a member. Nobody can know that you're participating in a test. The Gaiscioch, even if the NDA states that we can talk until open beta, we do not talk. We stay silent. We stay hidden. We help the development studio do what they need to do without being any source of leaking information. That is mainly our own credo. We don't want to ever be the reason why something got out in the open when it shouldn't have. There are several other game studios that would love the information a year or 2 years early so that they can counter that new feature that game might have. So it's really important that we keep that in total secrecy. You must uphold the Gaiscioch way and honor your commitment to the testing team. Biggest thing: honor, integrity, respect, fellowship. It's not very honorable if you go against what you say that you're going to do. It's not very, you're not full of integrity if you say one thing and then do another. Um, Respect is a huge player in this testing period. You're going to be interacting with people who have put their entire lives in your hands, and they're expecting you to come through for them and basically look at it as a gamer and say, this area makes me not want to play your game. This area makes me really love your game. You should put more of this in the game and less of that in the game. It's really up to you to help them build the game that you want it to be. This is definitely not something that you should be involved in if you're just wanting to try games before they go live. The Pioneer Credo. I understand by asking to join the Pioneer team that I will be bound by NDA to keep all things regarding the testing opportunities I am presented with secret, including but not limited to my involvement in said testing programs. I will test the product to the fullest of my ability, provide concise and clean information to the development team, conduct myself in a manner befitting of a Gaiscioch member, and fulfill my long-term commitment to testing this product to the fullest of my ability. I understand that my actions directly reflect on our family and will do my best to make sure that they are seen in the best light. I understand that testing may not be fun at times. That games will be nowhere near complete. That I will have to do repetitive tasks for months at a time. I will contribute, observe, report, and participate in active discussions and test to the best of my ability. Above all else, I will be a shining example of the Gaiscioch way. Additionally, I have read the Gaiscioch Pioneer Outline, which is available on gaiscioch.com, and have accepted the responsibility that has befallen upon me. We make each and every one of our pioneers agree to this before we allow them into the system. Once they do this, they will be able to fill out their tester profile, and when they do that, they then get imported into our spreadsheets that we provide for game development studios. The phases of testing. This is a big one. Not a lot of people understand how the testing flow works. The very first stage of the testing flow is the focus groups. They will usually have these in localized areas. Like, for example, I've been flown out to studios in the past and have to be on site for these. They rarely will do these over the internet because pretty much anything on the internet can be monitored. They will usually fly you out and have in person, sitting in a conference room, drawing on whiteboards, or sitting in a little booth while they show you a video or whatnot, and then you respond to it. They have the alpha testing, which is usually 1 to 2 years before release. This is where they start plugging in the base game system implementations, basic testing and review. This really, you'll find very low polygon counts. I mean, I'll get into this later, but it's very a rough sketch of what the game is going to be. The closed testing phase is usually 6 months to a year before release. This is where they start implementing their final graphics and voiceovers, quest dialogues. All that stuff starts getting put into place. It's no longer just placeholder stuff. It's then real stuff that you can start interacting with, start proofreading, start trying to fall through floors and find missing textures. And that's usually where a lot of people have their experience in testing, is the closed tests. That typically is getting everything ready for the open beta, which is the first look in stress testing. Open betas usually are used as a marketing campaign to generate interest in a game. They will lift the NDA, allow people to talk about it, blog about it, tweet about it, Facebook about it. Anything you can do to talk about it, they're happy to oblige. At this phase, when they lift that NDA, Gaiscioch allows their members to talk about it and talk about their participation in it. We still, however, will not talk about anything that we did during the focus through closed testing. We keep that secret, keep our involvement secret. We don't want to tell people that we were ever involved, because then people start prying for information. So we're going to move on to the focus group phase. Participating in a focus group. These are covered by strict NDA, typically localized, and may require travel. Typically used for researching ideas and player behavior. I've even participated in one where they did they would show me something on a screen, and they would monitor where my eyes go on the screen to tell if their UI is proper, or if they wanted me to find how to do something, they would ask me to do something on a computer console, and they would watch you as you do it to see what your behavior is to get to that point. A lot of this is studying to make sure that their game systems are the way that they need to be, so that when they're doing the conceptual planning, that they get everything in line so that they can start production on a game that players will most likely enjoy. They usually will select panels of maybe 15 to 20 people, sometimes more. In the past, I've seen teams up to 50, but these are very, very limited and focused groups. Usually these are reserved for major community players in the gaming world, people who have been around through many MMOs, through many different types of games. My very first one was actually at 3DO for Portal Runner, and that was a lot of fun. They fed us pizza and had us sit in booths and play the first level of Portal Runner, and they basically recorded us on video and went back and studied everything and saw how we interacted with the game, and that's how they ended up kicking that game out and making it what it was. These can also include playtesting, video watching, or panel discussions. Sometimes you'll be in a conference room just talking about a game. Sometimes you'll be watching a video and then giving your responses on a survey. Other times you might actually get some hands-on time. Usually it's a conceptual phase before the game systems are final. They just want to figure out what's the best way to go about things. It's kind of a really neat phase because you'll be able to see pretty much the birth of a game, and then later on when the game goes live, you'll be able to see this finished product that you saw in its infancy, and it's really neat. They're usually single shot sessions. They very rarely ever repeat. You'll be called in for one session and then be done. You may find that you may find one that does have several scheduled groups. I've only been in one the entire time I've been testing that actually used me more than once. Typically they want to take different panels based on your demographic, based on your gender, based on your age, your background, your professional background. All those factor into whether or not you get chosen for these. In this stage, feedback is critical. Anything that you suggest should be thought out from all angles, because you might suggest them down a road that later on you're like, oh, that was kind of stupid, and there they are chasing this road that was a stupid idea in the first place. So you really want to think about all your suggestions from all sides. See it from how would somebody exploit it? How would somebody turn it into a griefing mechanism? How would people maliciously use that same system? Think about it from the good, think about it from the bad. And when you have an idea, make sure that you try to nail down all those points and angles of exploit as you can think of. On to the alpha testing. These are covered by strict NDA, and at times you may even see legal action taken if breached. This is mainly because at this stage they're showing you their golden egg, and the thing that's going to put them up over all the competition. If you slip and share that information publicly, their competition has plenty of time to be able to implement that same feature in their game. They didn't corporate espionage it because they didn't have a mole inside that company stealing information. They literally had it blanketed out over the media, so who cares? Ooh, look, you slipped. We're going to take your idea and run with it. The most biggest player that you can slap this with is World of Warcraft. If you look at their game, every single one of their features came from another game. Anytime that information about an upcoming MMO that has a unique feature is leaked, you can guarantee that WoW people are already working on it. It's a way of life in the MMO community. If you want to stay ahead and you want to have a one-up, you have to have everything that your competition has and more. And if you're out there talking, even if you're talking to a friend at a Carl's Jr., if you're telling him something about a game, he might tell somebody else who would tell somebody else. We live in a social generation. People spread the word. You slip up and it will be known by the entire internet within a week. So you really want to be very, very careful on this stage. I have seen legal action be taken against alpha testers. It's an ugly, ugly thing. Um, these they are sharing their secrets with you. They are sharing their hard work and their family's livelihood with you, and you need to respect that. Alpha tests are the very first level of game testing. This is the very first time that they let players get in there and have their hands on it. It's very fundamental, very basic. A lot of times you might find that they don't even have a strafe key in, or they might not have a jump key in. They might not even. You might be walking around a blocky world with stick figure animations. This is pretty much their basic game systems getting plugged in, testing the engine itself. They rarely will ever find final graphics or final sound or final quest dialogues in this phase. This is usually all placeholders. These can last. I've seen them last a couple of years at a time. I think the longest I was ever a part of was 3 years long. Um, so yeah, these can be long. They can be short. I've seen some that only last a few months, but typically they are a long endeavor that's preparing the game to be ready for closed beta. Um, Typically, the alphas have schedules. They have planned group tests, specific times and location requirements. Not a lot of times they will allow outside countries to participate, mainly because it's very hard to cover something legally when it's international. And also, having international testers brings latency to the mix. If you don't want latency, you have to have data centers, and data centers eat up a lot of money. I will cover all that later. But usually they're based out of a specific region. If it's a Chinese MMO, it's going to be tested out of China. If it's a Korean MMO, it's going to be tested out of Korea. If it's a US MMO, it's going to get tested out of the United States. That's kind of how it works. The game is far from complete. You will have texture models that are very low polygon count. They're going to be conceptual. They're going to have Microsoft Sam and Microsoft Jane voices on their NPCs. Quest dialogues are going to be like quest text here, right answer here, wrong answer here. You're going to see a lot of that. And that's just them putting the placeholders in that will eventually get swapped out with real quest text, real voiceovers, real graphics. Next comes a closed beta test. This is usually the 6 months to a year before the launch. This is pretty much where they start plugging in all the final pieces. Usually when at the start of the closed test, you'll still have placeholders, but as the time goes by, you'll see the UI improve, you'll see the models improve. Sometimes you'll see lighting effects get thrown in, detail get added to the world, weather effects, stuff like that will start getting implemented. This is where they start plugging in all their game systems together and have you start focus testing certain different areas with the game systems all talking to each other. They are covered in NDA. Breaches typically will lead to your removal. At this time, if you slip up, most likely the competition isn't going to be able to adapt by the time that you hit live. It's still a very, very bad thing to leak information. So they will remove you, and quite honestly, Gaiscioch will remove you as well. It's not a very good thing to leak information in this phase. The base game systems are being tested and implemented. They usually follow a scheduled test. So you'll have testing in PvP today at 1 to 6 p.m. Testing in PvE tomorrow at 1 to 6 p.m. They will have calendars up and tell you exactly when you're going to be testing and what you're going to be testing. Your focus is on finding glitches, exploits, and game-stopping bugs. One of the big things I like to try to get all Gaiscioch members to pay attention to is if they're playing the game for 3 hours today and then they get to a quest and then they're like, yeah, you know what, let's go play this game instead. That moment right there, write down where you're at in that game. What made you think to go play that game instead? That's called a stopgap, and if you could find those and report those to the game developers, they will literally kiss you, because those are the things that make or break product. Whenever somebody's at that point where they're getting bored with the game or something's just not interesting anymore, those points need to be shaved out of the game and replaced with points that keep people excited. Those are the most valuable pieces of information you can ever give a game developer. So I would highly recommend you keep a notepad nearby, and if you start feeling that you don't want to play this game anymore, you need to write down what's making you feel that way. That is a huge piece of feedback that the game developers will love you for. You're going to be testing limited parts of the game. Sometimes you'll be testing, a guild system. Sometimes you'll be testing a PvP system. You're only going to get little slivers at a time. Sometimes they'll deactivate entire game systems just so that you only test certain systems. Um, that that can change, from week to week. Sometimes you'll find that closed tests are like one test a month or a weekend. That happens quite frequently, actually. Um, you will also see entire game systems added and removed. I have seen things that were in the closed beta test at the start get removed and totally taken out of the game by the time it goes live. I've seen the entire game system be completely thrown back to the drawing board and rebuilt from the ground up. This game is in no way final, and things will change from week to week. A lot of times you'll log in this week and see something, and you go, "Oh wow, that's cool," and then the next week you'll log in, "Oh, that's even cooler." And you'll keep seeing different changes in the world, and in the world actually being populated by NPCs, being new things being added. It's a very fast-paced environment, and you'll see a lot of change really fast. It's very, very important that you do not get into a closed beta expecting to try before you buy. That would be like going to the car factory and looking at cars getting made and saying, "Oh yeah, I don't want that. I mean, look, there's not even paint on it." It's the same kind of concept. The car is not even built yet. Wait until it's built, painted, and it actually runs before you judge whether or not you should buy it. You can only do so much when you're only seeing placeholders and filler content, and things aren't even connected yet. By the end of the closed beta test, you will see the game pretty much live ready. By the time that they go open beta, the only thing that they need to test is the stability with large crowds, and that usually comes from the open tests. They also want the game to be reviewed right out the gate when it hits the open betas. I'll go ahead and flip over to the open beta slide. Typically, the NDA is removed for open beta. They want people to talk about this game. They focus on stress testing, finding broken quests, misspelled dialogues, or localization issues, misplaced textures. The final polish round is added. A lot of times you'll see blooming effects and stuff like that. All the really special graphic effects start getting put in the game. People go through with a fine-tooth comb, start painting everything, make sure it all looks perfect. This phase is used to get people excited about the game. They want people to play before they buy at this phase. They want as many people on it as possible, live streaming, blogging, sharing your experiences. This phase is where you want to try before you buy. It's nearly complete. Usually lasts 1 to 6 months before the launch. And usually it's a 24-hour open window so that you don't have closed test sessions where you're only accessible in the game during a set time. You'll have open realm and be able to play it at your leisure. What to expect? Don't expect a finished game. You will never be in a beta test where you're playing a finished product. That's the whole point. The point is that you're being able to work from a game from infancy all the way through its adulthood. You're basically going to see this game grow up and turn into something awesome. There was one test I remember that when I first touched it, I thought, man, this looks like crappy shareware. I thought this game was going to crash and burn. That game later on went to win Game of the Year. And all its models were replaced. Everything was polished. The game was probably one of the best RTSs of the 90s. And it was a phenomenal game when it came out. So, don't judge it by your first impression, because a lot of times your first impression is only one or two little pieces of the system in place. You're not seeing the whole picture. Don't expect amazing sound and graphics. Those come later. Don't expect every suggestion you make to be acted upon. A lot of times they will weigh the cost benefits of these decisions, and things like, having a good example is I recently was asking a developer why they don't have universal crafting nodes like Guild Wars 2, where everyone can mine the same node. And their explanation to me was that the problem with that system is that if everyone can mine that node, then that node becomes less valuable, and which in turn throws the economy into the tank. If you notice, crafting supplies in Guild Wars 2 that you can get from nodes are very cheap and inexpensive. The only things that are expensive are the things that are rare in the world, the things that you can't find very easily and are limited in quantity. Those things are what makes the economy powerful and keeps the player economy high. So while it seems like it would be nice that everyone can farm the same node, in a sense, you're dooming the game when it comes to the material prices, the bare bones material prices of your crafting system. So it's making a huge hole in your game. Um, so not every suggestion that you make is going to be acted upon, but they will listen and they will review your suggestions and see if it makes sense for them to implement them. You will test a lot of content that sucks. I mean, quite honestly, you're going to play, even if it's the game that you've been dying to play since you were born. This is the game that I live for. I mean, you're going to go in there and you're going to go, oh my god, this sucks. This completely sucks. It makes me not even want to play this. And you're going to tell the devs that, and they're going to be like, oh, well, okay. And then the next patch, that content will be gone because they don't want sucky content in their game. So, it's up to you to be polite about it. Don't just say, dude, your hard work sucks, dude. You suck as a coder. Don't ever touch a keyboard again. That's not what you want to say to them. You want to kind of pat it a little and remember that they're pouring their life into this. Their family's livelihood depends on this game being good. Don't just spit on their work that they've been pouring their days and nights into. Try to suggest ways that they can make it better. That's what I've always tried to do, and it's very useful to the game developers. If you can not only say that something sucks, but also say, if you did this with it, it would be better. Try to build on what they were trying to do, and give them ideas for what they could do. That's always kind of the best approach. You'll be spending a lot of time on forums and filling out surveys. Quite a lot of your testing time will be spent filling out surveys. So expect it. Be ready to fill out a 100-question survey. It's consuming, it's boring, it's not very fun, but it's part of the process, and you're going to be expected to do it if you want to be a part of it. You will be expected to be a representative of our family. You will be in personal contact with game developers. That you will be talking to them on voice communication. You will be writing them in emails. You will have complete and total access to the game development team. And in such, you are going to be required to act becoming of that of a Gaiscioch. I want you guys to keep our reputation in mind. Us having these opportunities only came by us having the reputation that we do. If you want to be a part of this, we need you to make sure that you're being polite, you're being respectful, you're being, honorable about what you're doing, and you're being responsible for your actions and your commitments. Your actions are very much have the ability to make or break a game. If you suggest something that is awesome, it could be the best thing since white bread. You never know. It could be the one thing that launches that title into multi-platinum game of the year. You never know. But you could also suggest something that ends up being the most exploited thing in all of history, and you could lead the game to its being the next APB. You really want to think through all your ideas before you suggest them, and make sure that they're the right thing for that game. Not every game should have flying ponies and Justin Bieber on a My Little Pony. Only certain games should have that. Lastly, I've got frequently asked questions. These are the questions that I hear most commonly asked, and I state them over and over and over and over again. So I figure, why not have them all here so that I can help you guys through them before you ask them. Number one, why can't I tell people I'm involved? Have any of you ever gone to your spouse or your girlfriend and said, hey, I got you something, and just leave it at that? How does that work out for you? Yeah, exactly. People are excited about it. They're going to pry, they're going to ask, they're going to beg, they're going to plead, they're going to try to get any information they can out of you. It's like spraying yourself with sugar and not expecting bees to come at you. I mean, it's not going to happen. As soon as you open your mouth that you're involved in the test, people are going to start asking questions. And that usually leads to a breach. Whether you are the most strong-willed person in the world or not, somebody will pry something out of you. And that's why it's absolutely critical that you don't let anyone know that you're involved. If you can't keep that secret, you're not going to keep anything else secret. So it's very important that you keep that secrecy. As I said before, the big thing that a lot of game developers worry about is that if you share something with somebody else, it gets out onto the internet, their competitor sees it and is able to adapt and take their golden goose and make something of it before they ever have the chance to get it live. It's very imperative that you keep things secret until they're ready for you to talk about it. Why is my age, gender, and location required? Well, the Gaiscioch has a very unique approach and a very unique package for game developers. When they come to us, a lot of times they will say, can you get us a group of people from the Pacific Northwest that are between the ages of 30 and 35 that are all male? And I say, yeah, I can do that. And I pull a list and I send them a list of names. A lot of times we get groups that are being invited based on their gender or their age or their region, their location, their country. Sometimes I will get some that say, hey, we need 50 testers in Germany. Can you get me 50 testers in Germany? I'll look through our list and pick all the Germany names out and send them on over. These are likely for localization projects, stuff like